Hello, hello.
Hello, beautiful evening it is.
Hmm.
Yes.
I suggest that I start off with the check-in general, and I assume the others will slowly and surely join. We don't miss many. So, welcome everyone to our expert talk tonight on better conversations and less conflict at work with Paul. He will elaborate on that title more in a bit. So we start on time and we expect this talk to last about 30 to 40 minutes, just for information. And then we have about 20 minutes for question and answers afterwards. To ensure a smooth experience for this exclusive group, let's first settle a couple of ground rules. First, for information, this talk is being recorded and eventually it can be uploaded on video and social media platforms. So in case you don't want to be seen or your name to be displayed, you can turn off the videos. Some of you already did, and you can change your name to your initials. Second, you may already have realized your microphones are muted by default when entering this event. However, questions are welcome anytime. Kindly raise your hand before unmuting yourself. Raise your hand, wait a little bit. I will give you the floor and then unmute yourself and just ask your question to ensure that there is a smooth presentation. Also mind your background noise in case you are somewhere remote or not at home, so it doesn't get too surprising in terms of volume and sound. And yes, as said, in the end, we also have a QA, question and answer session. You can post your questions also in the chat. We will pick them up in the end and try to answer them in case you didn't have the chance to ask your questions during the talk. A short intro to ANCM before we get started, in case you don't know ANCM yet. So it stands for the Austrian Association for Negotiation Conflict Management. And we are a non-profit organization dedicated to promoting effective conflict management, negotiation training, and education in life, in a setup of a workshop with seminars and also with virtual talks like this one. And now to get to the speaker. So, Paul, we met last year at the CDRC, the Mediation and Negotiation competition in Vienna. And you participated there in our very intriguing negotiation workshop on game theory. I think you were an assessor at this conference, were you? But I think I will just give you the floor and you can introduce yourself.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. Happy we met each other last summer. Actually, last year I have not been an assessor. I have been a visitor at this conference.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. Um, there are some overlaps with other things scheduled during that conference, but happily I made it to your part of the conference because it was amazing. And the more I'm happy to be here today and to have the chance to hold this little seminar with you guys. It's Tuesday evening, and there is nothing better to do on a Tuesday evening than engaging in conflict resolution, and that's what we are about to do. I'm trying to share my slides now. Hopefully everybody sees this. Please give me a thumbs up in the camera if you see my slides. Amazing. That's actually the first time I'm trying to be part of my slides. So that's why you probably see me at the bottom left. Um, I'm starting with this statement you can see on the slide. Understanding how conflicts have shaped you and how you shape conflicts today. And from my point of view, that statement already includes most of the important things when you are a young leader in workplace, somebody engaged in conflicts. Because if we do those two things, if we understand how conflicts in the past have shaped us, our behavior, our personality, and if we understand how we shape conflicts while engaging in those conflicts, most things that hinder us during conflicts will be solved. And this talk today is about finding out how to engage in these conflicts and how we have been shaped by those conflicts. So, for making this evening happen, I have some things I would like to ask you. Yeah. First of all, this evening is for you. I'm not doing it for myself, and I'm here to move you forward concerning conflict and dispute resolution. And therefore, I would like you to eliminate all distractions. Please give away your phone, turn off the TV if somebody has still the TV on, and grab some paper and some pens. I do the same thing actually, because at the end we will have the opportunity to have several questions that I will give my best to answer and give you some insights in my practical work. Just for the note, you can also ask questions during the talk. I'm happy to answer the questions when they are concerning the current slides we are talking about. I don't care at all about it. You can just interrupt me or raise your hand, and Karina will give me some some notice about it. So, let's get into it. Because I have not been that polite and I've been talking 5 minutes without introducing myself. My name is Paul Schindler, as most of you already know from deciding to be part of this evening. I founded during COVID the first mediation blended learning training program in Europe. Before that, I've been studying law, and for the past 10 years, I'm working as a coach, a mediator, a trainer, and a business consultant. And as I'm doing this, I'm mostly engaging in conflict situations in B2B work. So most of my clients are companies in the middle or at the beginning or at the end of a change process, and their conflicts pop up, and that's the place to be for me. I'm also a guest lecturer at the University of Vienna, at the Diplomatic Academy, and also at at the Management School in Paris. Um, my main mission, and I think that's something you guys should be knowing because it's what I'm doing and it's for especially why I'm doing it. My main mission is to train the best mediators in the market. That's why we started the company. That's why we started the mediation training, and I will explain you a little bit later how it came to this situation. And I want to bring the something we call conflict competence into society. So if we are thinking about conflicts, most people they shy away from conflicts. They just want to solve the conflicts. They want to get rid of the conflicts. That's a mindset I don't support. I don't support it at all. I think to be engaged in conflicts is one of the best things you can do, one of the best competences you can earn. Why do I think so? Because being engaged in conflict teaches you so much about your personality, about the other people involved, and also it brings up solutions for technical matters that cannot be brought up without the conflict. And that's why I set the ambitious goal. And the ambitious goal is to resolve 1,000 conflicts each year. That's a pretty random number I came up with, to be honest. I had like the first year I was full time working as a mediator. I was part of 100 conflicts, and I thought to myself, what do you need to be doing to bring it up to 1,000 conflicts, 1,000 solved conflicts a year? And that's why we are working with multipliers. People like you, people like our customers who we educate in mediation, conflict resolution, and also negotiation to resolve conflicts. So that's my mission. That's a little bit about myself. And now I would ask you to give me a little information about yourself. I would be interested in whether you or what's the reason you are here today. It's A, B, or C. Is it A, you would like to work with conflicts, but you are not doing yet? Is it B, you're already actively involved in conflict environments? Or is it C, you're just interested in the topic and you want to think in whatever the evening is giving you? So please give me A, B, or C in the chat right now. So
Everyone should be able to post in the chat. Yes, I see the first answers.
I see them as well. It's B, it's C. What about everybody else? It's B, it's C. Okay, it's a mixture of both. That's great. So everybody so far is already involved in conflict. It's B again. Right. It's B again. It's B again. All right. Okay. Um, And we have the first question, what do I mean by working with conflict? Working with conflict, what I basically mean is by working with conflicts is working actively in the surrounding of conflicts or working on solving the conflicts. So if you are engaged in a conflict at your work area, but it's not your job to solve this conflict, then I would say you have like conflicts in the work area, but you're not working in conflict resolution. Yeah, that's how I would define it for this purpose. All right, so I have a little overview about it. The good thing is everybody has some conflict. Yeah, that's not surprising because if we are honest to ourselves, everybody has conflict. Even me, I do have conflicts all the time, and I fucking love it. Sorry about these words. So, what would we like to do this evening? I would like to give you some little insights in the work that I typically do, some insights in what I am convinced of are the, let's say, the basics of resolving conflicts in a professional way. And therefore, we have four topics we wanna head into in the next half an hour, something like that. And the first topic is what conflict competence actually gives you as a result for your life, how it makes life easier. I'm going to tell you something about how it made my life easier. After that, we want to engage in the mediation change process. There are a lot of different processes, and I want to break you down the most basic way how you can sum up the different processes that are out there. Everybody works with different processes, but there are overlying principles, so to say. And I want to give you a little introduction to these overlying principles because most processes are designed the same way, even if they have other steps. Um, then moving forward, I want to give you like a little secret, so to say, a little secret that I have been working on for the past 6 years now. Because every time I'm training people in conflict resolution, there are similar stepping stones, similar mistakes, similar things going wrong along the way. And I designed a framework to help you immediately to change these mistakes. And afterwards, at the end, I will give you three stupid, simple questions that might help you resolve conflicts. It's like every time it's getting simple. I try to be careful because the simple way or simple answers are not always the best answers. But these three questions are at least worth a try. Any questions so far before I jump into the first topic? All right. All right. Then we jump into the first topic, how conflict competence brings better results and makes life easier. So just that you know where I'm coming from. Yeah, this in the middle, yeah, that's little Paul. Little Paul as a child already has been engaged in conflicts, not by choice, but life is just happening. And little Paul had a lot of conflicts, as you can see by following the red dots. Little Paul had conflicts with his teachers. Little Paul had conflicts with his colleagues at school. Little Paul had conflicts with learning. Little Paul had conflicts with his mom because he was not good at learning. And little Paul also had conflicts with his dad because his dad had conflicts with his mom because Paul was not good at learning. Yeah. And Paul had so many conflicts. And this was not really a childhood for me, subjectively spoken, that I enjoyed a lot, as you can imagine. I really did not enjoy it at all. I was brought up in Upper Austria. It's like a two-hour drive from Vienna. For those who don't know the area, it's around Linz, nearby Linz, Wales, somewhere in between. And that's also the reason why I personally was always interested in conflicts, because if you're like engaged unsuccessfully in conflicts, and those conflicts lead to mobbing, and mobbing leads to leaving school and changing school, it brings up topics that shape your life, that shape your personality, as you can imagine. And that's exactly what happened to me. Those conflicts, they shape my personality a lot. I can imagine, I can remember the first time, one day I was asking myself, when was the first time I tried to engage as a mediator in a conflict? And the first time I didn't even know mediation or conflict resolution existed was when I was 11. When I was 11, that was the first day I had like a phone call with colleagues from me in school who addressed me with their conflict, as Paul is always involved in conflicts, and they wanted to have like some insights how they can better the situation. I had no idea back then. Yeah. Probably, if I'm being honest to myself, sometimes I always have also have the feeling today I have no idea what I am doing in a conflict. But what this childhood, this upbringing gave me was a certain kind of calmness in conflict situations, and that's for sure the first pillar that I learned, and the first pillar that I would like to give you for your conflict situations today. Just be calm. I have so many mediations where I'm totally blind in during the process, and I don't know myself where is left, where is right, where we should move towards. But just staying calm and staying engaged in a conflict and asking questions and being willing to stay in this conflict helps you resolve the conflict a lot. Today, um, Paul's world looks a little different. Yeah, there are still red dots. Yeah, many people when they get to know about what I'm doing for work, they ask myself, "Are you still fighting? Yeah, do you have still conflicts?" Yes, I do. Yeah, yes, I do. I do have a lot of conflicts, but the one thing that changed is all the conflicts I'm having, they are resolved quicker. Yeah. If you engage in conflicts, if you proactively work with conflicts, you don't fight less, you just fight smarter, you fight quicker. And that's what conflict competence means. It's the competence to be engaged in a smart way in conflicts, and to use those conflicts for yourself and for all the other people involved. Yeah. Actually, by now my private life is like filled with people who have like this will to engage in conflict, as this will to engage in conflict, it shapes your relationships, yeah, in a dramatic and in a wonderful, beautiful way. Okay, that's something to start off with. Conflict competence, in my point of view on those things, I am an advocate for conflicts, as you might have noticed by now. So, the mediation change process, what does it look like? Um, I want to bring you into the first mediation I ever hold. Yeah, it was an IT company. Actually, it was like a daughter company of a bigger concern in Germany, and the whole the whole enterprise had like 3,000 people working there, and the IT company, like a sub part in in this enterprise, had 60 people. And we have been asked to do a mediation, a change process by the head of these 60 people of the IT company. And the situation was the following. They onboarded a woman for their leadership position, as they noticed that they only had three people, three men working in this company. And from there on, everything went south. Yeah, the head of the whole department, the head of the whole company, she changed. She left actually and was replaced by another guy. And when we came to their workplace in Germany, there were actually not two women working together and three guys. It have been four guys and one woman, being the newest woman in the job. Actually, she was in the company for 6 months, and all the other guys in the company have been there for years, even decades. And it was like an interesting situation because when you do mediation training and conflict resolution, you always get these step by step plans, how to engage in conflicts and how to solve these conflicts. And when I did my first mediation back then, that's exactly what we tried to do. We tried to play it by the books. It was me and a colleague. We tried to do this co-mediation, so to say. And after like a very strange half a day in a seminar room, um, without making any progress at all, there was suddenly the phone ringing from the one woman in this room. And it was not a typical cell phone sound. It was something like Allahu Akbar. Yeah. And you have to know the woman in the room, she was a Muslim, and all the other guys have been typical white older men. And when this cell phone was ringing because it was time to pray for her, yeah, basically, the whole room was deadly silence. Yeah, it felt like somebody has just died in the room, and that's when we made a break, and we just readjusted and tried to find out what was going on, and we had like one main insight, and this one main insight was everything what was going on since the beginning of this day was just like a role play, so to say. Yeah. In the room, everybody was telling us they are working successfully together. They are not having any conflicts at all. And in this moment, it became clear that there have been some conflicts in the room, and also some issues with religion, issues with gender, issues with things not too happy to talk about. And what we just did is we tried to follow this process, and it didn't work out at all until this moment where the phone rang. I'll give you a short introduction in a typical change process, mediative change process. Normally, you start with one-on-one interactions with everybody included, because if you start off by one-on-one interactions, you get more information compared to a group setting if you're starting off with a group setting. That's what we did. We had one-on-one clarification calls up front. Everything was perfect, no conflicts at all. Then you start off a processing by clarifying rules and the setting in the conflict. You start off by defining the setting, defining your role, defining what mediation is and what to expect. Then you start with conflict repressions. Um, that's something like you start by asking questions about the conflict, how it plays, what happened so far. And by doing that, you already try to collect the topics. And when doing this by the book, you always have like one thing that is pretty, that might be pretty or might get pretty exhausting, and that's collecting the right topics. Um, After you collected the right topics, you try to deepen the topics. You try to find out what the topics are really about. Yeah, like in negotiation, you always have like the things people want and the things they don't tell you why they want it. It's similar in mediation. You have like topics people want, people have certain positions, so to say, and then there's the back information. That's something you try to get out of the topics. And if you didn't have done a successful job in finding out what it is really about, you can get a result, and after that an agreement. And what typically happens in workspace environment is people are not being honest with you what's really behind the positions they want. Yeah, they tell you about some topics, but they didn't tell you about what's behind those topics. And sometimes you have like in retrospective seen the luck that somebody has a ringing phone and this exposes what it really is about the situation. Sometimes people are not being upfront with you because they fear to do something or to say something that is not really welcome in the room, and to provocate kind of situations where people have to be honest is a really, really main topic in mediation. So that's a typical way to structure such a mediative change process. Um, there are other ways to do it. Yeah, there are simpler ways to do it. There are like four-step processes. There are five-step processes, six-step, seven-step processes. And what it really is about is the step number eight. The step number eight not included in this slide, not included in any format. And the step number eight is like the ongoing journey after a successful mediative change process. It's like what it is about in the future, and only the future tells you if the agreement that has been reached is really a successful one, is really one that people can work with. And that's why, even if I start with step number one today, I always think about step number eight, like the future, the future that the people involved in a change process will have, because with this future in mind, you already start doing a one-on-one interaction differently by asking not only questions about what has happened so far and who is involved and what's the history of the conflict, but why it is worth for people engaging in this scenario. I always want to have some insights about the reasons why people are engaging in conflict, because if I do have their reasons, I know how to incentivize these people to engage properly. Do you have any questions so far? It's like a quick go through this process. I know it's very, very quick. Normally we do weekends on this process alone, but do you have any questions so far about this process?
I would have questions at this point
Yeah,
if no
please.
one else has.
Feel free.
Um, how maybe on the collection of topics and identifying what is right, what is a right topic and or not? How do you identify that? How do you categorize that, or how do you investigate what is a right topic to address and what not?
Yeah. Um, I have like a framework I will be talking about later more, like the next framework that helps you do that already. Um, but ignoring that framework, I would say that most clues you get by having a close look at how people present these topics. They have like a certain way, people have a certain way of presenting topics, and they have similarities inside their behavior when presenting the topics. And I'm always looking for behavior when they are leaving their baseline. So a person has a certain baseline. They come into a room, they have like an first one-on-one call, they have a way of presenting themselves. And if there are real stepping stone milestone topics, then normally they leave this way of behaving in one way or the other. Sometimes they get louder, sometimes they get uh, uh, um, now how to say, sometimes they get faster while talking, sometimes they change their posture, and these are the little clues I'm looking for. Yeah, for me, actually, even if like it's getting really interesting in here where we try to find out what's behind the topics. um I already start in my head, the mediation starts from the first call on, because I get a feeling for people. Yeah. So on the behavior side, that's something. On the tactical side, I have something else. Uh-huh. Um, Karina, do you have another question, or is this question solved for you?
No, this question is answered. Thank you. I'm
I,
looking
I,
forward to the
yeah, I
framework
just
talks.
wrote my question in the chat, like the illumination of the topics. That's something that sounds interesting how to do that, but maybe you will come to this later anyways.
Yeah. Um, I give it a quick answer now about the illumination of the topics. There are a lot of different ways to do an illumination of a topic, and it's very different from what we are talking about and what setting we are talking about. Yeah, I give you an example. Some of you might know the very famous Rosenberg, an American, talking about violent-free conversation. Yeah, and ways to communicate. And he has like a four stepping stone framework how to communicate in a violent free way. It's about talking about what you noticed, then talking about how it felt, then talking about what you need and what is creating the feelings inside of you, and then it's about communicating a wish concerning a topic, and that's a way to talk violent free. Yeah, you could use the same framework in illuminating the topics by asking questions, so the people you're talking to, the conflict parties, have to answer these questions. And it would look like maybe, for example, something like, what did you notice about the conflict? Describe what really happened. Yeah, on an objective level. Please give me insight on what made you feel a specific way and how you would name this feeling. What do you think is inside you you didn't get that led to this emotion? Or last question, what do you need from the other party to resolve this emotion, for example? And this would be like a simple framework to illuminate topics, but it also has certain risks that come along with it. If like I'm in a very private mediation setting where it's perfectly fine to talk about the feelings in an honest way, that might be questions I ask. But if I am in a room and I have the feeling that it's not that personal, they don't want to get that private. A question like, what do you feel about the way the other person acted, is a question that I can never unask. And even though the parties don't have to respond to every of my questions, a question asked is a question asked. And if somebody doesn't want to respond to that question, there's another person in the room, the other party, noticing that you don't want to respond to a certain question. So just asking questions might expose certain things about the conflict that should not be exposed. And if you, as a mediator, expose these things that should not be exposed, you don't look that good in front of the parties. They might not trust you that much anymore. And that's why being very careful about the illumination of the topics is a great skill. Yeah. So how deep would you ask questions in front of parties? So that's the topic about the illumination. Margit, there are a lot of different frameworks. By most mediators, they just ask questions and they don't really know why they ask them. They have a feeling because they are practicing for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and they can't tell you why they ask questions at a certain level. They just do it because they have like a gut feeling. And what we are trying to do is we try to give like starting off people in mediation those gut feelings by giving certain tools and certain sets of questions for certain setups and certain scenarios, so you don't have to make mistakes the hard way, so to say. Yeah, that's what we are trying. For most people, it's just gut feeling out there, to be honest.
And if you're just just a moment more for this. If you're in a professional setting, so you don't ask questions like that at all, or is there some, I don't know, little advice you could give? What kind of questions you could ask if it's not such a personal setting, for
Yeah.
example? If
So
that's not too deep for this frame here.
yeah. First of all, you still can ask personal questions, but I would never do it in a group setting. I would
Mhm.
do it on the one-on-ones before the process. I would do it in the breaks, in between the process, where people are in a private setting. So this is the way to still ask private questions. And if you're in a group setting, the way I do it most of the times is I I ask very open questions, not even targeted to one specific person in the room. So, for example, um, what is the first thing that comes up about the conflict if you think about it? Yeah, it's a very broad question. So it's a very open question, and I don't even ask like, Margit, what do you think about it? I just leave it unaddressed, and by using like very open, very broad questions, not unaddressed questions, you always give everybody the possibility to ignore this question. Yeah. Sometimes I just ask those questions and then I practice myself in being silent for 15 seconds, 20 seconds. And if nothing is coming back, I also address the questions not being answered as something perfectly fine, perfectly valid, and ask another question, for example, or do another intervention. Yeah. And by giving these broad questions, you give people kind of an invitation to be allowed to participate, but not to force them at all. In the moment I'm addressing them personally, I'm forcing them to give an answer. That's not something I personally think is a good idea. Okay,
Thank you. Mhm.
you're welcome. Um, Other questions about this framework for now? Yeah, Christopher? I don't hear you yet.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Um, okay, I hear myself.
Just I mute one of those and then you can unmute, for example, the quiz participant. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Uh-huh.
I think, okay, maybe you have to shut off one audio device.
Yeah. So my question would be, you mentioned some topics that participants don't want to talk about
Yeah.
and how you could bring them to talk about it.
Yeah.
Could you explain this in more detail?
Okay. Um, I will go forward in some minutes, and I will talk about collecting the topics. Yeah, and while collecting the topics, there are certain ways you already know what topics to address in more detail, and what topics are just like side topics, so to say. Yeah, if you have like conflicts, just imagine. I don't know, Christopher, if you are living by your own, but if you imagine you're having like a fight with inside your family, for example, who is whose turn it is to bring out the waste. Yeah, for example, you can imagine most of the times when you're having like a real fight, an emotional fight about who is bringing out the waste from your flat, it's not about the waste. Yeah, because the waste, it's very unreasonable to have a deep emotional, ongoing fight about the waste that needs to be brought out. So there are also side topics. And by prioritizing those topics, you always also prioritize how deep you engage in certain topics. if like there is a conflict at work and you brainstorm what topics are the topics that make me go crazy, you might come up with 20 different topics, 30 different topics, maybe. Yeah. All topics that have been happening in the past 6 months, for example. To engage in all of these topics is not the way to go. You have to have a kind of a structure. If people don't have a structure in a conflict, they typically have certain behaviors. Some people just leave the conflict unaddressed. Other people jump from one topic to the other without solving a single topic. Other people are just brainstorming during the conflict ways that already have been going wrong in the past, proving their point or proving that the other person is not really competent or whatever it is. So we have certain ways to behave when we get emotional, running away, getting violent, whatever it is. Yeah. And if you find the right topics, like the main topics, then you try to bring some light in those main topics, because by bringing light into these main topics, resolving those main topics, the side topics go away most of the time. So now your question was, as far as I got it, how can we bring some light into those main topics? And there are different ways, and you always have um, to work what your participants are giving you, or your colleagues are giving you, or your clients are giving you. I always work with what they are presenting to me. They present also a behavior. If they have like the behavior, for example, that I described before, two people are fighting, but one is running away, trying to not engage in this conflict. A conflict can't be solved. So I can't be sitting on a table with two people asking them deep questions about their emotions, about their psyche, because somebody is not going to engage in the setting. So I have to find a way how to engage the one person running away all the time in the setting. Maybe the other scenario would be somebody is engaging way too much, way too emotional, way too aggressively in a conflict. Then I have to find ways how to stop them. And by finding those ways, I try to incentivize the participants in talking about what's behind the topics for them in their subjective world, so to say. Yeah. For some, it might be questions. For some, it might be stories that I tell. Yeah. Metaphors, for example. For some, it might be tasks that I give somebody a task to prepare a statement, for example. Because if I ask them questions on the spot, they get nervous because they can do something wrong, they can say something wrong. So I give them certain tasks, how to prepare a statement, for example, before the next meeting or for the next meeting, or for the meeting going down in 15 minutes. Yeah, sometimes I even give them like during a break a task to prepare something for when we start off after a break, for example. Yeah, so all these little interventions, so to say, are staged to engage people in the topics, because without any engagement and without any enlightening in the topics, we won't be solving them. At least not for good, at least not for the future. Yeah, we might solve them for now, we might get an agreement now, but I'm a long-term solution guy. Yeah. Um, Christopher, is this answering your question, or would you like to make a more specific one?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, amazing. Okay, having a little look at my watch, I want to continue. Yeah, I know these topics, they are never ending. Yeah, actually, when we are talking about, if I'm talking with colleagues, we always talk about these steps in the process. We always talk about when something went wrong and what ideas colleagues do have to make things move again. So that's a typical framework, and from day one, so to say, in mediation, you are thinking about these kind of frameworks. Okay. Um, I I just state this statement, yeah. I state the statement how I can get even stubborn and highly emotional people to follow the process. Um, I try to make it short. I was participating a lot in mediation competitions at the during my time in at university, and I was very successful in doing so. I participated in two competitions and won both of them. So a professor asked me to coach a team on the competition, and the teams always had like major problems with exactly these processes. First of all, the collection of the topics, and then getting some light into the topics. And I noticed by coaching them that exactly between step 4 and 5, that's where very experienced mediators have something they call the gut feeling. Yeah. And I noticed that gut feeling is not something working here because they had like a certain problem with these steps because they don't have this intuition yet. You can't have a gut feeling, you can't have an intuition without decades of experience. At least that's what experienced mediators and professors tell you all the time. And what I did is I came up with something I call the conflict compass. It's like a way to get from a topic collection, like a collection of all the topics, to a certain prioritization so we can be sure of what the main topics are and what the side topics are. And this process is a three-step process. First of all, it's a topic collection. Secondly, it's a simplification and showing up the connections between certain topics. And third of all, it's a prioritization of topics. So you can imagine being in a situation where topics, unexpected topics, maybe pop up. And this can be a meeting at your workplace as well, a meeting with colleagues, you as a leader, you as a part of a team, and you have like maybe a meeting with a certain agenda, and suddenly there are topics popping up, topics that you would like to discuss, maybe topics you have a certain conflict about. And um, what I would suggest, yeah, is to collect all these topics and not to jump from topic to topic to topic because that's a typical behavior for conflict. By jumping from topic to topic, most people don't get that far. But by collecting topics and giving them a certain structure, you can check them off topic by topic. Yeah. When you are collecting a topic, I always do it in a written form. Yeah, I have like a pen and paper in front of me, maybe some cards, some moderation cards, and I collect the topic by giving a moderation card a topic. And I don't do it by being on the computer. I don't do it by being on a flip chart because by doing it on a computer or on a flip chart, you can't keep all participants in your view. And it's super important to always have the people sitting in front of you to know or to see how they are reacting when a topic is coming up and when you are writing down the topic. Yeah.
Paul,
Yeah.
maybe at this point, a question that fits.
Yeah.
Karin asked in the chat, how do you stop people who talk very loudly and incessantly?
Mm, I would say it depends. It definitely depends on the person. Because like you can imagine two different characters, both talking very loudly, both talking very engaged. One can be stopped by typical status plays by just stopping them, interrupting them in a polite way, and asking them to turn down the volume as we all can perfectly hear what they're saying or something like that. And others will interpret this way of stopping someone as an attack. And then you can also do something else, for example, pacing them down. That's what I would call it. Starting myself talking very engaged, very loudly, and then while I'm talking, pacing myself down and talking even slower and more quietly and demonstrating the behavior that I asked them to engage in. Yeah. So if you have control over the situation, over the room, you always can pace people down by demonstrating their behavior or the form of the behavior you accept in the room. That would be a more implicit way of doing it. Yeah, just to give two examples. Yeah, um, I I also have the feeling it's a question of your style. Yeah, because um, for me, I have the feeling I can do both things. That's why I just came up with these recommendations. But I also have the feeling that some people it would not fit to do an aggressive form of stopping people. It's not very elegant, so to say. Yeah. So I'm super convinced that everybody has to find their own style, as you have to find a kind of a own leadership style or own style of presenting things in front of people. So there's also own style in stopping people. Yeah. And for others, it would, for example, be I also noticed that with colleagues, um, just to do something non-verbal you normally don't do. For example, to have like a pen, you normally never do something with a pen, but outside of writing, but you take the pen in your hand and then you pinpoint in a certain direction in the room. And for if that's something totally unnormal for you to do, people will notice because you never do it. Something is different now. And just this little pattern interrupt, so to say, can also stop people doing what they normally do. So it's like a pattern interrupt, a break inside the conversation that makes people think, that creates a room of reflecting what is just going on. Yeah, that would be another way to do it. A fourth way to do it would be just to bring up the question. Like, for example, honestly, guys, I'm just trying to reflect what is going on in the room right now. And that's it. And everybody can ask themselves those questions as well. You don't even have to answer them. Yeah. Okay. So four different ways, four different ideas, but there are plenty more ways. I think it's a personal style question at the end of the day. Yeah. Okay. Back to the topic. You can collect the topics, and by keeping your participants in your view, you always make sure that you don't only get their words, not only get their topics, not only get what they say, but you always get how they feel about the things when they come up. And a second part would be controlling the words, controlling the topics. When I'm writing down the topics inside the room, I always control the frame of the topics. So if somebody else, a participant, is writing down topics, they have the control over the frame. If I write it down, I have the control over the frame. What is the frame about? A certain topic, for example, deadlines. Yeah, let's put the topic deadlines. Yeah, for one participant, deadlines are a topic because everybody else is always late. And maybe they would like to write exactly that down. Everybody else is always late. If I am not controlling the topic, but write down or let the participants write down how they feel about the topic, how they frame the topic, we don't have a neutral topic anymore to talk about. Every topic has been framed before. Therefore, every topic is an insult, is an attack, is something like that. So if you are controlling the words, in controlling the frame, the wording of the topics, you can make them neutral. And then we are not talking about everybody else being always late, but we talk about time or deadlines, something objective, so to say. So that's the second quick tip that I would like to give you. Always have the people inside your view and always control the frame and the wording when collecting topics. After you collected a lot of topics, it can feel overwhelming because if you're collecting all the topics and it's overwhelming, you don't know where to start. And by simplifying and connecting those topics, you can bring structure inside the overwhelming feeling, so to say. There are two things I would like to point out when simplifying and connecting topics. And the first one, actually it's 2B, is the constellation technique or constellation techniques in general. Those are techniques where you can showcase, make it visible how topics interact within each other. Yeah. So if you just imagine us being in a conference room having different cards with different topics, I can show the constellations of the topics by just sliding those topics around on the table. And then I might give a task to one participant and would say, for example, hey, we have just written down all the topics. You can move those topics, you can move those papers around freely on the table. Just give me an overview how those topics are connected. Slide topics that are connected next to each other, rank topics from top to bottom, give a certain structure by just changing the place of the papers in the room on the table, for example. And that's a constellation technique, a technique to show how topics are connected between each other without using any words at all. And it's fascinating when you look at people, how they are connecting topics you would never thought that they might be connected inside their head. And we are always trying to find out what's inside the head of somebody. And just by doing that and by having another participant watching what's going on in the room, in the conference room, sometimes already gives you some insights you never had before because you didn't know that topics are connected into each other. And you can also simplify those topics by doing something similar, by giving instructions that if there are topics in the room on the table that are interconnected to each other or maybe concern the same thing, you can also overlap those topics. And by doing that, you get some structure inside the room. One can also connect those topics by playing with colors or by playing with some materials to connect topics, for example, or by connecting them with pen and paper, for example, with a big paper underlining or underneath the small papers, for example. So these are all techniques. And then there is another topic I want to bring up, nämlich alternating and sequential ways of structuring the conversation. So you can also make some sequences while doing that, giving somebody the place or the time, like for example 5 minutes, to showcase how the topics are connected for this person, but also by making it collaborative by giving alternating questions and tasks to the people engaged in the process. So that's also something I wanted to point out. Okay, so first of all, we have like collection of the topics, then we have simplification and connection or connecting these topics. And then we have something we call prioritization. It's interesting, people always, or most of the time, they are not sure or they are not, they don't have the same way of prioritizing topics, and by giving them the possibility to choose for themselves what topics are the most interesting one, the most necessary ones, the ones that we should discuss to start off the whole process is something interesting and insightful, because by asking them what would you start off with, in what prioritization would you rank all the topics, by asking that you get an insight on the criteria they use. Some people start with the topics that are the biggest. Others start with the topics that can be resolved the quickest. Others start with the topics that are most important to them. And then there's a possibility to ask them why these topics are the most important one. So giving it the information always gives you some insights on the criteria they use, and the criteria gives you insights on how to incentivize them being engaged in the process, so that some information you can always come back to. If necessary, that's one of the only points in the process where I make a compromise. So if participants, employees, colleagues can't get a prioritization or an agreement on the prioritization, that's one point where I would make this decision, make a kind of a compromise or suggest a compromise. But that's one of the only parts in a process where I make any decisions. I try always to do not make any decisions at all concerning topics or concerning how to structure such conflict situations, but always to make the decision by giving the decision to our participants. All right, that's a framework. I call it the conflict compass. By following these instructions, we had like amazing outcomes, even at beginner levels. It's a little complicated. It sounds a little bit complicated, but by trying out those frameworks, you will notice that you get structure in a process where no structure is at all. And especially in emotional conflict situations, structure is everything. We always have structure when everything is simple, is already structured, when an agenda is easy to come up with. But that's a way how to come up with an agenda during a conflict situation. And alone, just by providing the structure, you make people feel way securer about the process because they know what to expect. So that's one of the main mistakes that always get made. If somebody is emotional, addressing the emotional things straight ahead, no matter what, and I wouldn't recommend it at all. I would always recommend giving them targeting those emotional topics, but giving them a structure before targeting them, and that's a great way how to do that. Have you any questions so far about this framework? All right. If there are no questions about the framework, I would try to be a little faster. Yeah, because we are inside this talk for more than half an hour. I'm sorry about that, but I'm happy you are listening and interested. I brought you for the end some little questions. Yeah, I promised you, and those little questions might change everything. I cut the story now. These questions are like default questions. I come back if I need a quick solution. I'm not that big of a fan of quick solutions because quick solutions tend to fade away very quickly as well. But if we need a quick solution, and if a quick solution might be possible, I think it's worth a try from time to time. And one magical question, and those questions, they are so simple. Yeah, one magical question might be, what would you suggest? Yeah, because by asking the question, what would you suggest? We have the possibility to not get even deep into the topics, to ask somebody to come up with a solution, a suggestion is a great thing, especially if we need a quick one. Yeah, it might not be the deep, long-lasting solution, the deep, long-lasting suggestion, but it might be a quick fix. A second question I like to ask is, what would it take for you to agree? It's a very interesting question as well, because what would you suggest is a question that asks our participant, our conflict buddy, to come up with a solution. And what would it take for you to agree is asking them to come up for things we can do or we can change for them to agree. So it's a different angle, so to say. The first one is making them come up with a suggestion, and the second one is like, what environment, what setting do we need that you can agree to this thing? So it's a different angle. I'm very strategic on what of those two questions to ask. It really depends on if I would like them to come up with a with a solution, a suggestion, or if I want them to tell me what the whole situation would have to look like to come to agreement. Yeah. And the third one, and it's a, it's a simple question. It's not typically a win-win question all the time, but it can be still a beneficial one. And the question is, can you live with it? Yeah, can you live with it? Because if somebody can live with it, we at least, it's not a win-win situation to live with something, but at least we have like a fallback scenario that can function as a in-between agreement before we have the time to make a strong, long-lasting win-win agreement. So can you live with it gives us the permission to delay the work that needs to be done to have like a full lasting win-win situation. And if the answer to this question, can you live with it, is no, I can still jump back to the first two questions. Okay, you can't live with it. Perfect. I do understand that. I feel about it similar like you do. What would you suggest? Yeah. And if I don't like the first question, I go back to the second one. So these are like super simple, quick fix questions to get smart solutions very fast, even though they might not be the long-lasting solutions. All right. Any questions about these three questions so far?
No question. I just really liked it. And I love that after the second question, Roland literally drew a red line. So whenever you don't want to agree with something, there is the red line. I'm not sure if we can delete the red line again.
I'm not sure about it myself, but I
But
think it's not
let's go on
disturbing.
with it. Yes.
I have a question concerning the second question. Oh my God, too much red lines. You told that, if I understood it right, in the right way, you told that there are two different kind of ways you can understand this question. What was I only understood one of them.
Yeah. If we are talking about communication, we most of the time we talk about communication between two people. Maybe two people fighting about something, two people engaged in a conflict, and both of those people, they have a subjective reality about everything, but especially about the conflict and also about the topics and how to solve them. And if I'm asking somebody, for example, you, Karina, let's imagine we both of us, we are having a conflict. If I ask you, Karina, what would, Karin, sorry about it, what would you suggest? I'm giving you, by asking this question, I'm giving you the task to come up with a suggestion. And this suggestion you will find in your subjective reality. You will, most of the times, you will not think about how would Paul solve it or what would Paul do. You might be asking yourself, what do I suggest? If I give you the task to think about it, and I give you the task to think about it by asking you the question, what would you suggest? If I'm asking you, what would it take for you to agree? Most people start thinking not about a solution in their subjective world, but they start to think about what would this situation have to look like to be perfectly fine with it to agree. And most people, by asking those questions, don't think about how do I need to change my reality to make this happen, but they think about what do I need from you? What do you need to do that I can agree? So they are asking about what Paul might be needing to do or might be needing to change about the situation. So that's kind of two different ways to make somebody search for the question at the right spot or search for the answer actually at the right spot. Yeah.
I would also add to that you get directly into a solution mindset because you're thinking about a solution
Yeah.
instantly. Yeah.
Which might be amazing if this the right topic, the right conflict, the right scenario. As mediators, we are always careful about quick solutions, because if I'm asking Karen, for example, about the solutions, we don't have any time to think about what brought us to the scenario we are in right now. And like unsolved or halfly solved or quick solved conflicts, they don't leave that much room for us developing our relationship. Yeah, us finding out about ourselves, us redefining the way we interact with each other. So there's also something scary, so to say, about quick solutions for mediators. But if it's necessary to have like a quick fix for now, that are questions I play with all the time. Yeah. All right, Karina.
There is a question in the chat. So
Yeah.
sorry for the red line, Roland says. My question, how do you deal in a conflict situation if there is a choleric person involved? Do you have a good strategy to deal with extreme tempers?
Yeah, I would say it might be similar answers to those I already gave before. Like um, making a pattern interrupt, doing something unexpected to blow their minds, to make them question the situation, or questioning the behavior of myself, for example, to make somebody question their behavior. Yeah, for example, a statement like, these conflict situations, they always have something about them that makes me notice that I'm acting differently than I would normally do. I don't know about you, but for me, this is so not so obvious during these situations. But when I'm going to bed, thinking about what we have been doing, I might be questioning myself and my behavior. Yeah, it's interesting. It's simply interesting. So stating a reflection about myself that invites somebody to reflect their behavior, for example, or pacing them down, getting aggressive, loud and loud myself, and dosing it down every few seconds for just a little bit to demonstrate that we can also do it in a different way. Sometimes, as I said before, I just sit there, look at people, maybe smile a little provocative, and don't say anything at all, because this kind of strange behavior makes people also reflect on what is going on in the room. Most people question themselves if they are faced with some guy simply staring at them and smiling. Yeah, that's so strange, especially in a loud environment. That also might be a kind of a pattern interrupt. So these are some quick tips and some quick guides what I typically do. But I would always start with finding my peace in the situation with choleric people, because I don't think that I'm convinced that these interactions or interventions, they don't work if you feel uncomfortable. Yeah. So feeling comfortable in a very uncomfortable situation is the starting point to start changing the whole situation. Yeah.
That actually brings me to something that I noted down quite in the beginning. You said stay calm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow, easy said, difficult to execute. How do you stay calm in conflict situations?
Mm, it's a belief. Yeah. And it's the belief that no matter what is going on, nothing lasts forever. And by just giving things time, they resolve um, themselves. And I give my best to prove this belief to myself in every situation in life. Yeah. And by engaging in conflict situations for so many years, for decades now, as somebody who is fighting himself all the time, but also as a consultant and a mediator and a coach for the past 10 years, there has not been a single situation that has not been solved by staying engaged and staying positive. And there are definitely those situations where I feel like I'm at the middle of a sailing ship in the middle of the ocean, not knowing where land is coming from, not knowing if there is any land, definitely not any land in sight in front of you. Um, but just by staying on this boat, you reach land. You reach land all the time. Yeah, you can't tell if it's like 10 seconds, 10 minutes, or 10 sessions, but it's never 10 sessions. It never is. Yeah. The longest duration of very, very uncomfortable mediation settings that I have experienced have been something like a day and a night, and that's about it. I've never had more than 24, 25, 26 hours of very, very uncomfortable situations. And just by saying myself, it's probably going to be a little different in 24 hours, helps me to stay calm in the situation. Yeah. All right.
So to sum up, to trust actually that everything will end in
Yeah.
a good way.
Yeah. Trusting the process, maybe. Yeah. It's a common thing to say, but I think that's it. Yeah.
Mm.
And trusting yourself. It's trusting a process and trusting yourself that you can master every situation. Yeah.
Mm.
All right. For those of you who are interested in, yeah, I'm not going to make a pitch right now. Yeah, don't worry. But that's what people look like who have been certified as mediators and have been listed by the Ministry of Justice. That's actually me being very happy because those people, this group has been the first group I trained in mediation. Now the sixth group is about to finish, and we have like close to 100 people now successfully being trained in mediation in Austria. And for everybody who is interested in what we are doing, I'm starting the Q&A session right now, and you have here a little QR code. You can scan it and then you get to our website, or there's the link to our website, so you can look up what we are doing in training people in mediation and conflict coaching. Yeah. I think I'll kick off the official Q&A session now, as I have to leave in about 10 minutes. I'm super sorry about that, but I have one more session going on today, so I have to leave at 8. Are there any questions so far by you guys? Anything related to those things I presented or other things?
It's not quite a question, but I think about it is really different if you're a person who comes to a conflict from the other person to mediate than to be in a conflict with somebody. So I was looking at or I was hearing with the ear of a person who is in a conflict, and it's also some good imports, but I think not everything will be or can be used. Can you say something to this? Do you have ideas for people who are in the conflict?
Yeah. If you're engaged in conflict, most of us, we have like typical ways of interacting with the conflicts. And a suggestion of mine to you would be to look up conflict types. Yeah, there are 5 different conflict types, and asking myself from conflict to conflict, what kind of conflict type am I depicting right now? What conflict type am I acting as right now? Is an amazing question to ask. And the second question I would ask myself is, what conflict type is my conflict partner right now? Because if you know what kind of conflict type you are and your partner is, you start seeing conflict dynamics. For example, the example I gave before, if you are running away from the conflict and somebody is super engaged and wants to have the conflict, you have this typical dynamic. You run away, somebody else runs after you. that's not a dynamic that will be solving the conflict. If you have somebody who's super aggressively involved in a conflict and you're aggressively involved in conflict, it's not good as well. It's not good neither, because then you are fighting against each other. If both are running away, it's not good neither. And then the question is, what kind of conflict type am I? What is my other person? What is the dynamic of the conflict? Are we running away from each other, towards of each other? Are we staying where we are without any movement in the conflict at all? Are we both trying to find solutions that favor our conflict body but not ourselves? And by thinking about these dynamics, you can also know what's going on, like analyze the conflict and then change it. Yeah, the big topic about conflict and analysis is not to be analyzing the conflict, but to know what to change basically. Yeah, and that's why we are thinking about conflict types, conflict dynamics, conflict topics, escalation ladder from Glasgow, whatever it is. All these typical conflict frameworks help us just to understand the conflict, and by understanding it, we can make the first step of changing the conflict. So that's something I would suggest for everybody. And actually, the things we discussed today, they also apply to our own conflicts. Yeah. But to make them applicable for our own conflicts, we have to understand the conflict at first, and then we have to be like calm, because without this calmness, you might not be able to change the conflict in the way you want to. But if you can analyze it, if you can stay calm, you can make this strategic decisions. And if I come back to those frameworks we just had a look at, I also can like make in the conflict a clarification about the rules and the setting. And I can say, just to be clear, I want to involve myself in this conflict right now, but there is one rule that's super important to me. For example, being that we are not shouting at each other. Yeah. Is it okay for you to make an agreement on this one rule, or whatever rule it is that is important to you while fighting? And then you can keep going and say, I know there have been a lot of topics and emotions in the room. I would like to start off by talking about what objectively just happened. Could you tell me in your own words what you think just happened? And afterwards, I will tell you in my words what I think just happened. Then you can go on by, let's collect all the topics that are in the room. Let's collect everything that is been annoying to both of us. Then you can go like, after making a prioritization, hey, let's look what's behind those topics. What do you think is the main thing behind this main topic? What have you not been telling me about this topic going on inside yourself, for example? So by asking questions, you can also use all these frameworks. Of course, it needs some training and some showing on how to do that. But we also have a recording of this meeting, so maybe you can have a look at this recording. And by using those frameworks, by giving questions to every step of the framework, by brainstorming questions to our conflict body, for every step of the framework, we can also navigate ourselves through our own conflicts. And that's exactly what I'm also doing by now. Yeah. But I have my own conflict type as well, and mine tends to be overly judgmental when I'm emotional, and by also letting these overly judgmental point of views feel other people by my facial expressions, and being able to reflect about our behavior consciously and critically, and thinking about what is my typical behavior and is this really something that helps our process, is a great way to start off, I'd say.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. It's
You work.
always about staying calm.
Mm.
Yeah, it is. And you can't stay calm if you don't know your own history of conflict.
Mm.
Because all of us, we have been studying how our parents have been fighting, and most of the times, or the other mentors, yeah, our first mentor in work as well, how they lead, how they interact in conflict, and we learned a lot of good things by watching those people. But we learned also some behavior we should be reflecting about and maybe change about. Yeah.
So having a look at the time box, we have 4 minutes left to 8 p.m. The session was, I think, insightful and interactive. Thank you very much for all the questions and the engagement. Let's get to the outro, just very quick. So you will get the Paul's presentation PDF as a PDF to the email addresses you signed up with for this event. Thank you for being with us tonight. Because we mentioned that so many times, stay calm and be and also trust. I think practicing in a safe space can support in building up this calmness and this trust in yourself and the process. That's why I wanna draw your attention to one of our next events. We also have workshops, as I said in the beginning, where we have a quick intro to some theory of negotiation, and then we practice with a concrete negotiation case, hands-on in a safe space, and then we debrief, and we can then reflect on how we behaved, how the counterparty behaved, and learn from the process itself to gain that trust and confidence to stay calm when things get tough. I posted the link to our next event in the chat. It's on December 16. It's on salary negotiations, something that is super crucial to everyone's careers, no matter if you start it or want to get promoted and advance with it. And having said that, we are looking forward to see as many of you as possible to one of our next also hands-on workshops or expert talks. Paul, thank you once more. And I wish you much fun and a lot of energy for your next seminar or session, which sounds like quite tough at this time of the day. Everyone, thanks a lot and have a great evening. I close this talk for tonight. Thank you.